So we have an excellent program now to start discussing all these issues. And it's a pleasure now to introduce my colleague David Dill, who's a professor emeritus of public policy at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He has been a visiting professor and fellow at the University of Manchester Business School, Wolfson College at Cambridge, Center of Higher Education Policy Studies at the University of Twente, and at the European University Institute in Florence, Italy. That means that he travels a lot between the US and Europe, and he knows very well systems all over the world. He has conducted research in academic and industrial settings and has consulted with academic and government organizations and agencies in the US, Europe, and Asia, and written numerous articles, chapters, and books. His research interests include public policy analysis, the regulation of academic quality, and research policy. And today he's going to tell us about the American model and maybe how we Europeans have often misinterpreted the American model. The floor is yours, David.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Over the last decade, I've had many opportunities to consult with colleagues here in Portugal about higher education policy issues, and those have always been very informative sessions. But I am enormously honored today to have this opportunity to talk with you about university governance, and I'm very pleased to be here. In the 21st century, the EU nations have placed increasing emphasis on improving and strengthening the universities because these institutions are particularly influential in supporting social and economic development, as well as producing knowledge-intensive goods and services. These EU higher education policies have often been guided by the U.S. experience with its research universities. Following World War II, U.S. research universities developed what my distinguished American colleague Roger Geiger has described as, quote, the most powerful system for advancing knowledge that the world has ever seen, unquote. Today, over 1/3 of the top 100 universities in the respected Leiden global rankings of scientific impact are U.S. public and private research universities. Among the U.S. research university practices modeled by EU nations are the granting of private foundation status to publicly financed institutions, the establishment of university councils or boards of trustees, the strengthening of the authority of university rectors and executives, as well as the adoption of some American university organizational structures, such as doctoral or graduate schools. However, a significant difference with the American university system are the EU policy reforms specifying the internal organization and governance of research universities, which often limit the collegial authority of academic staff. Under the U.S. Constitution, education was deemed a principal responsibility of the constituent states. Because of this federalist political framework, the U.S. national government has not developed a national ministry of education, nor has it directly regulated university governance, management, or student admissions. The U.S. national and state governments have traditionally permitted both public and private universities to adapt and improve their institutional governance and management over time as they see fit. Consequently, U.S. academic research has become a self-organizing system, and America's leading research universities have developed distinctive mechanisms of collegial management and governance, which have enabled them to achieve their current high global status. In the presentation, I focused on the collegial mechanisms of university governance characteristic of the members of the American Association of Universities. Founded in 1900, the AAU is a selective professional association of America's leading research universities. The AAU, along with its adjunct Association of Graduate Schools, was created to establish and uphold among its members uniform academic standards in research and doctoral education. Currently, the AAU consists of 65 universities, 2 of which are Canadian. All of the American universities listed in the top 100 of the Leiden rankings are members of the AAU. Over the last 120 years, the AAU has had a dynamic membership, adding and, when necessary, dropping members based upon measurable criteria, which I will define in a moment. The annual AAU meeting brings together the graduate school deans and senior research officers of AAU universities, providing them a forum for mutually addressing issues related to doctoral education and research improvement. The existence of the AAU, therefore, not only motivates other U.S. public and private research universities to constantly improve their processes for governance and management in order to gain and sustain membership in the association, but the association has also served as an influential means for the transmission of more effective academic structures and administrative mechanisms among the member institutions. The form and function of the AAU helps explain why research on American higher education has consistently indicated the governance and management of the leading American public and private research universities are significantly different and more effective than the nation's other academic institutions. The AAU universities possess distinctive authority environments characterized by faculty control of major academic decision-making, faculty criteria for key administrative appointments such as dean, provost, and president, and a process of department-based, bottom-up governance. This American form of collegial government has been consistently noted as the most significant organizational difference between U.S. research universities and those of the EU countries. In my following remarks, I will briefly address the higher education policy issues of university designation and the granting of autonomy to public universities before turning to a more detailed discussion of the distinctive collegial organization of America's leading public and private universities. The quality and impact of academic research is a strong predictor of university reputation, of success as an academic, and the economic benefits an institution of higher education provides to its region. Therefore, professors and politicians in all countries, including the United States, lobby for academic institutions in their region to be upgraded to research university status. In the U.S., where the title university is not legally controlled, designation of public doctoral granting universities is determined by each of the 50 states. While the AAU has no policy-making role in university designation, unlike the comparable Russell Group of universities in the United Kingdom, the AAU has explicit, measurable criteria for membership. These types of criteria may offer suggestive guidelines for university designation in other countries. The AAU criteria include an institution's federally funded research expenditures, faculty membership in the U.S. National Academy of Sciences, faculty members receiving awards, fellowships, and memberships in the National Research Council list of highly prestigious awards, publication citation data, number of research scholarship doctorates completed, number of postdoctoral appointees, and total number of faculty, which permits normalization of the previously noted data. However, if the economic impact of higher education institutions is a primary concern, university designation alone may not be sufficient. A valuable comparative study revealed that the knowledge transfer processes currently emphasized in many national university policies were not the most important contributors to local and regional economic development. Some universities do produce technology artifacts that lead to new products or new industries. But more typically, academic institutions help to modernize mature industries, support the expansion of existing businesses into new fields, and assist in the relocation of industries. In these roles, the provision of capable science and technology graduates for the regional economy, consulting and contract research on technical problems with a local business and industry, as well as traditional publications, are much more significant channels for influencing technical innovation than are the newer emphasis on patenting and licensing. Academic institutions can also provide a unique public space for local business practitioners in which they meet during research conferences and industrial liaison programs to discuss the future direction of technologies, markets, and regional development in a non-collusive manner. Therefore, incentives may be needed to encourage all relevant academic institutions to engage in studies and consultations designed to better understand their own research strengths, the development and circumstances of local industry, and the most appropriate channels for aligning an institution's capabilities with the needs of the local economy. The Finnish National Centers of Expertise program provides one highly regarded model along these lines. Most U.S. public research universities possess substantive academic autonomy, understood as the freedom to select students, set curriculum, and appoint professors. But there is a much greater variation in the legal status accorded public universities across the 50 U.S. states. Many states, such as North Carolina, historically treated their universities as agencies of state government, subject to similar procedural regulations governing personnel, finance, and facilities as other state-funded agencies. Thus, the University of North Carolina does not have the authority to determine its own tuition and fees or set faculty and staff salary increases. Other states, such as California and Michigan, have awarded their public universities corporate autonomy. Under their respective state constitutions, the publicly supported University of California at Berkeley and University of Michigan are treated essentially as private universities and granted autonomy from state procedural controls over personnel, finance, and facilities. An influential economic analysis examined the effects of market competition and state regulation on the research performance of U.S. universities versus EU universities. The researchers focused on university outputs which contribute to economic development. The study concluded research universities are more productive when they faced increased competition and possess greater autonomy. Frontier research is such a complex product that universities can effectively pursue it only if accorded the discretion to direct resources and researchers towards the most promising academic paths. Therefore, the study concluded the most efficient system of external regulation permits research universities to control the use of their budgets, to independently choose the compensations for their faculty, and to hire whichever academic staff they most prefer. The foundation option recently extended to Portuguese universities appears to provide some valued aspects of this type of procedural autonomy. However, while university policies in some EU nations have awarded more authority to university rectors and their senior management teams, the academic authority provided by strong academic senates and councils has often been weakened. This emphasis on more hierarchical administrative control of university governance is likely less efficient for society than well-designed collegial processes of governance and decision-making. Long-term academic staff are more likely to provide truly independent judgments on critical university decisions than shorter-term administrators who may personally benefit in status and salary from the decisions made. Furthermore, national policies requiring academic faculty to share internal university governance with students, staff, and designated external representatives are substantially different from the processes of collegial control which have evolved in U.S. AAU public and private institutions. For example, at my University of North Carolina, some undergraduate and graduate student representatives do attend department, school, and college, as well as university-wide faculty senate meetings. But they participate without vote and would not attend academic meetings engaged in faculty personnel decisions. No representatives external to the university regularly participate in these internal academic governance deliberations. Of particular relevance to Portuguese policy, the faculty senates of AAU institutions like the University of North Carolina, which control academic policy, are unifying governance bodies. As such, they are composed of faculty members elected proportionally from all departments and schools within a university. Finally, at the University of North Carolina, a separate employee forum exists where representatives of non-academic staff discuss their concerns with the university administration, but that is very separate from the University Senate, which is involved with faculty and academic policy. The one critical federal decision shaping American academic governance occurred in 1819 when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the charter granted to the Dartmouth College by the then colony of New Hampshire was a contract. Therefore, Dartmouth was deemed a private institution designed to benefit the public, not a public institution under government control. This judgment served as a cornerstone of U.S. corporate law and formalized the basic principle of American academic governance, in which the ultimate authority of a public or private higher education institution rests with its appointed Board of Trustees. While the earliest U.S. colleges were strongly influenced by their presidents and boards, over the course of the 20th century, American universities evolved a distinctive system of shared governance at the institutional level. This shared government involves three spheres of decision-making. The governing board and administration have primary responsibility for finances, including maintaining the endowment and obtaining needed capital and operating funds. The faculty has primary responsibility for subject matter, curriculum, methods of instruction, research, faculty status, and the aspects of student life clearly related to education. Shared responsibility among the board, administrators, and faculty exists for strategic matters such as framing long-range plans, budgeting, determining priorities, and presidential selection. The authority granted lay member boards of trustees has traditionally been perceived as a unique strength of the U.S. higher education system, helping to buffer institutions from political forces and assuring the pursuit of social outcomes in the public interest. While all private institutions of higher education possess these boards, governing boards are also the primary form of control in the public sector, with boards elected or appointed for a state, a system of institutions within a state, or for individual institutions. Typically, the boards delegate most of their authority to the president and administration, becoming only involved in major policy decisions. However, recent conflicts between boards of trustees and the faculties of public AAU universities in several states suggest governing boards in the public sector are now more vulnerable to ideological forces rooted in political patronage and partisanship. In North Carolina, the Republican Party now controls the state legislature and has appointed individuals sympathetic to their political views to the boards of all public universities. As a consequence, the University of North Carolina Board of Trustees, for the first time, refused to offer academic tenure to a candidate recommended by the university for a distinguished professorship in journalism, who happened to be a minority female. A recent survey of American public university board members further revealed almost 70% assumed their roles through a process controlled by a single political party. Just 22% of politically appointed trustees navigated a confirmation process that included a meaningful bipartisan check. As a consequence, the American Association of Governing Boards of Universities and Colleges has now called for the merit selection of public sector boards of trustees. In this approach, a nonpartisan or equally partisan commission screens candidates for the governing boards of a state's public colleges and universities to determine their merit and qualities for service. As noted from the outset, the institutional president and boards of control possessed significant influence because both public and private institutions were highly dependent on their ability to raise funds in order to survive. During the late 19th and throughout the 20th century, a number of dynamic and innovative university presidents helped to create and strengthen the U.S. research university. Unlike Europe, where rectors often played short-term, largely honorific roles, American university presidents not only wielded substantial influence, but did so over extended periods. Recent reforms in EU countries have often tried to emulate this U.S. experience by awarding greater hierarchical authority over institutional matters to university CEOs. However, following World War II, as U.S. research universities rapidly expanded and grew more complex, the university president's role necessarily focused to a greater degree on external relations. Consequently, during this time, many U.S. research universities expanded the authority and the collegial processes associated with the role of the provost or vice president of academic affairs. The unique role of the American university provost is well illustrated by the current position description at the University of Michigan. Quote, "The provost is the chief academic officer of the university and has responsibility for the university's academic and budgetary affairs. The provost collaborates with the president in setting overall academic priorities for the university and allocates funds to carry these priorities forward." Historically, larger U.S. universities had assigned primary responsibility for operational and capital budgeting to a financial administrator. But following World War II, many public and private research universities expanded the authority of the provost, combining university-wide authority over academic programs and faculty appointments with responsibility for planning and resource allocation. Even Harvard University, founded in 1636 and generally regarded as the leading university in the United States and world, finally adopted this leadership model by appointing its first provost in 1993. The trailblazer for this new form of academic leadership in the United States was Frederick Terman, a distinguished dean of engineering at Stanford. Appointed provost in 1955, Terman became responsible for overseeing hiring and promotion of the entire faculty at Stanford University. During his period as provost of Stanford's academic reputation rose more quickly than any other U.S. public or private research university until it attained its current global standing. Reflecting Terman's more analytical approach, Stanford adopted a number of practices for systematic academic advancement, including innovative university-wide planning and budgeting processes. It also became the first university to apply management science models to academic decision-making. While Terman demonstrated dynamic executive leadership, those who followed him at Stanford understood the complexity of university curricula, personnel decisions, and research require core academic decisions be determined by the professional expertise of the institution's academic staff rather than by an individual administrator. Subsequently, Stanford and other leading AA universities such as Duke, Princeton, as well as Berkeley and Michigan, developed planning, budgeting, and program evaluation procedures utilizing well-designed collegial mechanisms of control. At Stanford and other leading U.S. universities, the provost is a senior professor, most often with prior experience as a department chair or dean. But to assure financial planning and budgeting decisions truly reflect the university's collective academic values, for over 50 years, the Stanford's provost decisions have been undertaken in close consultation with the University Budget Committee. This committee is responsible for developing and allocating a comprehensive operating budget, including all restricted and unrestricted operating revenues and expenses for the next year, as well as the university's capital budget. At Stanford, the Budget Committee is composed of academic administrators who are also university professors, as well as of experienced senior faculty, including the chair of the Stanford Faculty Senate. Full-time Stanford faculty membership represent more than 2/3 of the Stanford University Budget Committee members. Finally, all allocation in the improved comprehensive budget and the academic values informing these choices are published annually in the Stanford University Budget Plan. This informative document communicates the university's core values to all members of the university, including students, and is available to all of you on the internet. Another influential management process in AAU universities is regular external reviews of existing academic departments and research units. At University of California, Berkeley, these reviews by distinguished academic peers have been carried out for over 50 years by the provost in close association with the academic senate. These reviews have guided the university's academic planning process and have been a vital element in initiating major changes. A significant example is the innovative reorganization of the biological sciences at Berkeley in the 1980s. During the 1970s, rapid advances in molecular biology and genetics opened new fields of knowledge and provided avenues of radical innovation. At the beginning of this period, Berkeley had preeminent national rankings in the various fields of biology. But the 1981 external review of the university's biology programs, which were located in some 20 different departments across several colleges, revealed Berkeley was slipping in the rankings. This was due to deteriorating laboratory facilities, a substantial duplication in expertise across the multiple departments, and a failure to develop strong faculty groups in newer subject areas. The normal governance process was for these external reviews to be submitted first to relevant committees of the Faculty Academic Senate with eventual recommendation to the administration. In this case, a different process was followed, one which further illustrates the role executive leadership and collegial governments play in the achievements of U.S. research universities. The Berkeley provost at this time was an experienced professor of botany with a good comprehension of the developments occurring in the biological sciences. The provost also understood substantial changes would be needed, and these changes would be strongly resisted by entrenched interest in the related departments, who would therefore be influential on the deliberations of the academic senate. Consequently, the provost chose to appoint a series of ad hoc committees composed of distinguished members of the Berkeley biology faculty to assess the external review, to reshape and upgrade the relevant programs, and to recommend new research facilities for the biological sciences at Berkeley. The university chancellor eventually agreed to support the recommended new facilities with a private fundraising campaign, which at the time was the largest such campaign ever undertaken by a U.S. public university. The implemented program reorganization and the new facilities reversed the slide of Berkeley's rankings and increased morale among the related faculty. While this case illustrates the effective management strategies taken by Berkeley's executive leadership, it also underscores the critical importance of collegial mechanisms for successful decision-making. These included the problem definition process through external review by respected academic peers, clear and prominent roles for trusted intellectual leadership from the university's relevant disciplines in the several committees developing solutions, and information sharing throughout the entire process between the Berkeley executive leadership and the faculty senate. Given the uncertainty and complexity of academic decision-making in contemporary research universities, effective academic governance requires carefully designed collegial mechanisms employing the most respected and knowledgeable university faculty members. Disciplinary-based academic departments, which developed in the rapidly growing U.S. universities at the beginning of the 20th century, introduced an internationally unique academic structure. This was a reaction to the then influential elective system of college studies in the U.S., and the student disciplinary major quickly became the basis for American undergraduate education. Because U.S. research universities have traditionally delegated faculty hiring to departments, the academic disciplines also effectively organize the American academic labor market for faculty. With their ability to organize in one single structure undergraduate education, faculty hiring, fields of research, as well as individual careers, academic departments became the indispensable and irreplaceable building blocks of American research universities. For this reason, academic departments in U.S. research universities are a significant source of collegial control. In many university systems, there is a tension between personal authority, for example, the significant influence traditionally granted individual professors in European universities, and collegial or collective academic authority. The U.S. academic department is a powerful mechanism not only for protecting the professional control of academic work, but also providing a means for constraining excessive personal authority. Academic departments in the AE universities acknowledge the importance of faculty seniority and experience by requiring the chair of a department to be a senior or full professor. They also assign to full professors in a department responsibility for appointments or promotions to professor and the award of academic tenure. But in most AAU arts and science departments and professional schools, the chair is considered a first among equals and has a limited renewable appointment. Over time, the chair is rotated out of office and other members of the department collegium take their turn in the leadership role. Moreover, on other departmental matters such as curriculum, design, course assignments, and the appointment of junior faculty or staff, voting is often by one person, one vote. Because these votes include junior members of the academic staff, the department structure in U.S. research universities thereby acts as a collegial control on the personal authority of senior professors. The procedure for faculty promotion and the awarding of tenure in AA universities provides a further example of collegial control by academic peers. These personnel evaluations do not favor control by any one person or any one level within the university. For example, at the University of North Carolina, faculty hiring, promotion, and tenure recommendations approved by an academic department must be carefully reviewed and approved by a faculty advisory committee to the dean of the relevant school, as well as by a faculty advisory committee to the university chancellor. This latter university-wide committee is composed of the most respected professors drawn from across the university, who thereby help to assure a more common standard of faculty quality across all university departments. Also at North Carolina, the decision to appoint a faculty member as department chair is made by the relevant academic dean only after personally and privately consulting with each tenure-line faculty member in the pertinent department regarding her or his views on possible candidates. As Professor Burton Clark, a distinguished man in our field, noted, national systems that do not have academic departments seem to evolve toward them to tame the narrower inclinations of individual specialists and to bring collegial principles to the fore. An additional means of collegial control in the leading U.S. research universities is the required external peer review of the research published by university faculty candidates for promotion and tenure. These reviews are sometimes perceived by foreign observers as, quote, letters of recommendation, unquote, but this underestimates their value and function. At North Carolina, the chair of an academic department contacts distinguished faculty members at peer universities in the candidate's field and sends them a selection of the relevant candidate's research. These external reviewers are asked to assess the strengths and weaknesses of the research, its significance for the relevant field, and whether the specific candidate would be considered for promotion and/or tenure at the reviewer's university. Therefore, these external reviews are more similar to peer reviews of research proposals than to letters of recommendation. These external assessments are taken seriously by the department faculty members responsible for making promotion and/or tenure recommendations at the requesting university. They are also forwarded along with all other relevant materials to the described school and university-wide faculty committees responsible for reviewing the quality of faculty personnel decisions. This collegial process at AAU research universities is in marked contrast to the increasing adoption of journal citation and impact scores as a primary means for evaluating the research quality of academic staff in some EU universities. Another collegial mechanism indispensable to the development of American research universities are research units. During World War II, large research institutes funded by the federal government for war-related research were established within universities such as Harvard, Berkeley, and MIT. But these autonomous institutes arouse concerns in the AAU universities about how best to design, organize, and perform externally funded research. Following the war, many of the AAU universities implemented policies requiring a distinctive structure for new research units, regardless of their source of funding. The post-war addition of these new units encouraged the rapid U.S. development of innovative interdisciplinary fields in the sciences and humanities, as well as the creation of social science knowledge to address pressing societal issues. These new university policies effectively linked research units to existing academic norms and collegial forms of governance. For example, creating a new research unit became a collective action by the relevant department and/or school. Within AAU universities, the research unit director and key researchers have joint appointments as teaching faculty within existing departments, and many of the appointed research assistants are already enrolled as research doctoral students in related fields. These research units were also subject to university academic oversight as exemplified by the program review process at Berkeley. The management and governance of AAU research units are thus substantially different from the experience of Northern European universities. Their laboratories and institutes often reflect the scholarly interests of a particular chaired professor. Assistants, resources, as well as equipment are brought together under the personal authority of the professor who serves as head. In this semi-oligarchical system of governance, there is a danger of more autocratic or even exploitive behavior toward junior researchers. Another distinctive structure of collegial control in U.S. universities is the graduate school, a second level of faculty organization and governance designed to assure the quality and rigor of research doctoral education. Because of the perceived weaknesses of U.S. secondary education, as well as of the elective undergraduate education, the leading universities supported the development of a separate graduate school to better link graduate education and research for the PhD degree. This globally unique form of graduate education required doctoral students to train as a cohort in each field, reside full-time at the university for a stated period of time, finish a specified sequence of courses, complete stepwise student testing and certification to advance to the doctoral degree, and receive careful preparation for, as well as complete, a research-based dissertation. Today, most research doctoral programs in a U.S. university, including those offered by professional schools in business and health sciences, follow policies developed by the faculty of a university-wide graduate school. The graduate school faculty is composed of full-time, tenure-line faculty members appointed to academic departments who have themselves completed a PhD degree. Unlike undergraduate admissions, which are controlled by an administrative office, research doctoral admissions are controlled by each academic department following graduate school guidelines. Only after successful completion of a departmental comprehensive exam based upon required coursework is the student deemed a candidate for the PhD degree by the graduate school and able to begin a dissertation that reflects original research. The development of a dissertation proposal is guided by a committee of 3 to 5 members of the departmental graduate faculty. This committee oversees and approves the student's choice of a dissertation topic, as well as the adequacy of the proposed research, advises the student in completion of the research, and approves the written dissertation following an oral defense. U.S. research training in the sciences, engineering, and health sciences is further strengthened by a 1 to 3 year postdoctoral research experience supported by the federal government. Almost 70% of the individuals who received postdoctoral appointments in 2019 were assigned to AAU universities, described herein. While the chair of the dissertation committee serves as the primary research advisor in the United States, collective action and agreement by the committee members is required at every stage of the process. In sharp contrast to the described collegial processes in America, many universities in Northern Europe traditionally followed a master-apprentice model of research doctoral education. This approach rewarded substantial autonomy to chaired professors who individually admit, advise, and supervise the thesis of each student. In the U.S., the more flexible and expandable academic department replaces the hegemony of the single professor with the collegial controls of a disciplinary group. Given the growing global competition in research doctoral education, many EU universities are now voluntarily taking collective actions to improve their doctoral programs, quote, with defined processes that enhance quality and aim at coordinating individual efforts, unquote. These collegial structures and processes include the establishment of university-wide doctoral schools similar to U.S. graduate schools. In a number of EU universities, the collective academic faculty have implemented university-wide rules and guidelines, including doctoral committees to supervise student theses and university-level admissions committee for research doctoral education. These voluntary efforts are altering the traditional hierarchical form of academic authority within some EU universities to a collegial form more reflective of America's leading research universities. In the contemporary world, strong research universities play a significant role in social and economic development, and this has motivated many EU countries to attempt to emulate American policies on higher education. However, in a misperception of U.S. practices on university management and governance, several nations have adopted policies encouraging a more hierarchical, top-down, managerial approach to university governance, which frequently lessens effective faculty influence. One reason for these misperceptions is the lack of a coherent model of collegial governance. Our previous conceptions of academic collegial organization were largely derived from descriptive analyses of institutions in Northern Europe, England, and the United States, which, as noted, reveal strikingly different understandings of effective university governance. A potentially more valuable framework for understanding collegial organizations is the Commons model developed by the Nobel laureate in economics, Elinor Ostrom. In her Nobel Prize lecture, Ostrom argued that neither market forces nor the rules of the state are the most effective institutional arrangements for governing, managing, and providing complex public goods. Instead, she has identified universal design principles that permit individuals and self-governing organizations to effectively address collective action dilemmas. Ostrom argued a commons perspective is most applicable in circumstances where more effective cooperation and integration among independent individuals is critical to performance, clearly the case in contemporary research universities. The commons perspective is also relevant when an organization's members share common values, when the organization is a self-organizing community, when the organization possesses a nested structure with multiple levels of rulemaking, and when the organization is of a size to facilitate the active participation and interaction of its members. In one of her last studies, Ostrom applied her commons framework to universities and argued universities are best understood as humanly constructed, self-organizing knowledge commons. From research utilizing her model, Ostrom developed several principles of commons design. The first principle has significant implications for the development of EU policies on university governance and management. This requires public confirmation of the professional autonomy and responsibility of the commons members to govern their own institutions. Implementing this design principle is essential to strengthening the common members' motivation and commitment to investing the necessary time and effort in collective actions required to address contemporary challenges and pursue effective performance. In the broadest sense, this clear public commitment to faculty professional autonomy and responsibility for institutional governance of its research universities has been a distinguishing feature of American higher education policy. Thank you very much.